we have tangent squared theta is equal to tan theta. So now, oh, sorry, I wrote it down incorrect. Minus tan theta is equal to 0, because that would be impossible. So in order to find this, we're trying to find theta again, so find theta. The easiest way I could think of doing this is, I'll show you two ways. You could think of tan theta as just equal to x. So this tan squared theta is basically just saying tan theta times tan theta. So that would just be x times x, since we made tan theta equal x. So that would just be x squared minus tan theta again is x is equal to 0. So we could do it like this, and this would just be, if we factor out the x here, we get x minus 1, which is equal to 0. So we know that x is equal to 0 and 1. So we do know we could do it like this, by the way. And by x, I mean that tan theta is equal to 0 and tan theta is equal to 1. So these are two things that tan theta is equal to. And in order to find what theta actually equals, we can actually do the inverse tangent. So arctan of 0. So arctan of 0 has to equal theta. And arctan of 1 has to equal theta. Right, because we're given the side ratios, but they're asking us what the angle measure is, so we use inverse tangent, which is arctan. And if you plug this into your calculator, you can figure it out. But most people would just leave it at this. Now, for the second way on how to do this is, let's just write it all over again. Tan squared theta minus tan theta is equal to 0. So now we can actually just factor out tan theta as a common factor. So this would just be tan theta, and then this would be minus 1, which is equal to 0. Now, we also know that since these two things are equal to 0, this means that we can set them individually equal to 0 because of the zero product property. So, zero product property. So this would be tan theta is equal to 0 and tan theta minus 1 is equal to 0. So if we simplify this further, we get tan theta is equal to 1. We get tan theta is just 0. And again, we can use arctan. So this would just be arctan. By the way, arctan can also be written like this. Tan inverse of 0. Arctan slash tan inverse of 1. And we can just leave it like this. Alright, so moving on to our next problem here. We have this a little harder one. 3 cosine squared theta minus 10 cosine theta plus 3 is equal to 0. Okay, so we can actually do this the same way. I find it doing it with the x is a lot easier for me, so just make cosine theta equal x and it's a piece of cake. So that would just mean that this is just 3x squared minus 10x plus 3, which is 0. Now you can just factor this like you would with any other quadratic, which is just multiply the leading term and the end term. This is also because I can't take out a GCF and there's no two numbers that multiply to 3 but add to this. So I just multiply that. You get 9. So two things that multiply to 9 but add to the center term here would be negative 9 and negative 1. So 3x squared minus 9x minus 1x plus 3 is equal to 0. Now just factor it. So we do this, we factor it by grouping now. So group these together and these together. So 3x would be our common factor here, which is just x minus 3. And then you factor out a negative 1 here, which is just x minus 3 again on the inside. And then this all equals to 0. So now we see these outside terms here, and we make that individually a factor. So 3x and minus 1 is equal to 0. And we also can say x minus 3 is equal to 0. By the way, these two parentheses that you get over here, let me do it in a different color. These parenthesis values that you get over here have to be equal. That's when you know you factored it correctly. So this can just be 3x minus 1 is equal to 0, and then you just add 1. So that would just be 1 over 3 is equal to x. I mean, since we're solving for tangent, we can actually stop at this step and now just plug in cosine theta everywhere you see x. So this would just be 3 times cosine theta minus 1 is equal to 0. So this is just saying 3 cosine theta minus 1 is equal to 0. And then this is just saying cosine theta minus 3 is equal to 0. And then now if we simplify this, 3 cosine theta is equal to 1. And then cosine theta is equal to 3. And then these are your answers. You can just leave it like this, or you could put it into the calculator. And, I'm sorry, I forgot to do one more thing. Divide by 3 here. So that would just be cosine theta equals 1/3. So you can put these into the calculator and it'll spit out the value for you, but most people can just leave it like this. If you were to put this into the calculator, you would have to do cosine inverse of 1/3 and then cosine inverse of 3. And this should give you the answer. Alright, so let's do one more problem. 2 tangent squared theta minus tangent theta minus 5 is equal to 0. So we can actually just go ahead and do this with the x trick that I told you earlier. So tan theta equals x. So this would just be 2x squared minus x minus 5, which is equal to 0. Again, there's no common factor that I can take out. So multiply this term and the leading term. So that would give you negative 10. Two numbers that multiply to negative 10 but add to negative 1. Let's see. Negative 10, negative 9, and negative, sorry. Okay, I guess there's no value that works for this. So we can just use the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's not factorable, unfortunately, so we can just do this, and our negative b, so our b value is -1, so that would just be 1 here, plus or minus square root of b squared, so that would just be 1 again, minus 4 times a would be 2, times c would be -5, all over 2 times 2, which is 4. So now, if we simplify this further, we get 1 over 4 plus, actually let's simplify what's in the under the root symbol first. So that would be 5 times 2 is -10 times -4. So this would be 40, 1 minus 40. Or am I doing this wrong? Sorry, it would be plus 40. So that's 41. And then, so that's just under the square root symbol, all over 4, and then plus 1 over 4, and then 1 minus this, all over 4. Again, we can just combine this. And this is your answer right here. By the way, this is what x is equal to. So that would tell us that tangent theta is equal to 1 plus square root of 41 all over 4. Tangent theta is also equal to 1 minus square root of 41 all over 4. Yeah, again, this would just be arctan of this entire thing over here, which is 1 plus square root of 41 all over 4 has to give you theta, and arctan of 1 minus square root of 41 over 4 has to give you theta. Now again, this can be very, very annoying if you don't have a calculator. I'm pretty sure it's impossible to do without a calculator, but you can plug this in to get a numerical value. Alright, so that's gonna do it for my video today, so I hope you learned something. Thank you.